Hello, I'm Kamali, taking you through the stories people are talking about and sharing around the world on Newsfeed today. A shootout in South Africa. We look at how kids in the country are being taught to cope with seeing traumatic things.
You can't touch me. I can touch you. You go this way. Stop pushing me. Stop pushing me. Go do it again.
Was this racial abuse? Mo Farah gets pushed around at Munich airport. A former Russian spy fights for his life in the UK after being poisoned. We take the view from Moscow. And Michelle Obama dances with a toddler, and yes, it is as good as it sounds. Well, at the top of the newsfeed, let us take you to South Africa and a view that some people had of a shootout in Western Johannesburg. Now, unsurprisingly, this footage has been shared widely. It was an attempted robbery of a van carrying cash in transit heist, and they are depressingly common in South Africa. There were 152 last year, and they're on the increase. Now, what marks them apart is the use of high-powered weapons, assault rifles and grenades. And as the criminals use bigger guns, the private security firms protecting the money are forced to do the same, leading to an arms race of sorts. And another bit of detail, this all happened on the same street as a nursery school. Let's talk to Melanie Rice, who's in Cape Town.
I went to a talk at my kids' school recently, and the focus changed to children who'd been left traumatized after witnessing violent crime because there were just so many parents that needed support.
I mean, just incredible that this sort of thing can happen in the middle of the day. I mean, how prevalent is it? I mentioned earlier that this is sort of maybe in the hundreds of these things happening each year.
And it keeps on rising. Those numbers keep on going up. And it's this brazen criminality. You know, we're seeing shootouts in shopping malls, home invasions, carjackings that happen in broad daylight. So you live under that constant threat all the time.
Absolutely, and it's the high-powered weapons that are being used as well, which was so shocking to me seeing this video today.
I think as South Africans, we desensitized to it because certainly we've lived through the brutality of apartheid, the horrific stories that came out of the TRC, and now in a democratic South Africa, these awful violent crime figures that happen on a daily basis.
I mean, what is the gun culture like in South Africa, Melanie? I know I have some South African friends and their families have guns. There's farmers. Is there a gun culture of sorts?
It's certainly not as vocal as, say, in the States. But people kind of keep it on the down low. There's strict rules and regulations around carrying guns. But a lot of people in this country keep guns for protection. As I said, home invasions are rife across the country. Farmers, certainly. So there is a gun culture, but it's on the down low.
And one of the other details about this thing was that there were a private security firm following this van carrying all the cash. I mean, how are they dealing with this? And how are they being viewed as being sort of like private armies that have to have high-powered weapons?
Well, that's the thing. If you're from a middle to upper income family in South Africa, you can't rely on the police. There's very little faith in the police, so you rely on these security guards who are often completely inadequately trained to deal with these situations. And people don't have faith in the police or in the criminal justice system because if these criminals are caught, which they're often not, then they're often not convicted. And at the highest levels, we have the top officials who have been implicated in corruption. So police rely on the security companies who are completely inequipped to deal with this level of violence.
Yeah, a worrying trend. OK, Melanie in Cape Town, thank you. Well, let's have a look at what else is trending on social media. A woman who said she slept with President Trump says she's now suing him. Stormy Daniels is the hashtag, and the actress says that the agreement she signs to keep her affair with Trump secret is not binding, as he never handed his Donald's John Hancock. There's still a lot of talk online about the Oscars. The US television audience was the lowest in the awards history. And President Trump tweeted, "The problem is we don't have stars anymore, except your president." He said he was kidding, of course. I'm not sure I believe him. Well, let me show you this footage from the four-time Olympic gold medalist, the world record breaker and the Knight of the British Realm, Samo Farah. Now, he was travelling from Germany to Ethiopia to begin his training for the London Marathon. And this is what happened to him at Munich airport.
Pure harassment. Pure harassment. Now you're leaving this area, okay? Where's the gate? You don't need to push me. Where's the gate? Look, he's pushing me. He's pushing me. You don't need to push me. I won't go to the gate. You don't need to push me. You're on life. You can't touch me. You can't touch me. I can touch you. You go this way. Stop pushing me. Stop pushing me. Go to the gate. Look, he's pushing me. Go to the gate. You don't need to grab me. Leave me alone. You went on this with me. You're on Instagram Live. Yeah, I don't care. You're pushing me.
Well, Samo posted on Instagram saying it's sad to see racial harassment in this day and age. Now, I'm not sure how late for his flight Samo was, but come on. Munich airport have not commented. Now to the real-life Russian spy thriller in the UK, where scientists are trying to work out what sort of poison the former spook and his daughter may have been exposed to. Sergei Skripal and his daughter Yulia remain in a critical condition in hospital. They were found unconscious on Sunday in the town of Salisbury. Now, the fingers being pointed at Russia, and the British PM's called an emergency security meeting at Downing Street.
Here's how the story is playing out in Russia, and let's take a look at social media first. On Twitter, the story is trending. It's in the top 10, but it's not trending that widely. There have been just over 8,500 tweets on the topic, but compare that to other discussions, they are getting in the millions. And I want to show you one journalist, Alexander Kot. He says that this is effectively Litvinenko 2.0 and that the UK is doing this ahead of the Russian election, essentially saying that former Russian agents are being poisoned to discredit Russia. He has got more than 500 retweets and likes so far. Elsewhere on Russian-backed media channels, state-backed media channels, the story just isn't featuring that prominently. On Russia Today, for example, the flagship international channel, they do occasionally mention the story. They have mentioned it online, but they are not pursuing the line that Skripal may have been poisoned. Instead, they are saying he reportedly exhibited signs consistent with a drug overdose. They say that British media is rushing to link the case to that of Litvinenko.
All right, let's take you around the world now for the other stories you need to know this Wednesday. The United States says they'll impose more sanctions on North Korea. Trump and his team blame Kim Jong-un for the murder of Kim's half-brother, Kim Jong-nam, in Malaysia last year. Forget about the caffeine. Coca-Cola in Japan will soon have a different kind of kick: alcohol. It wants to get in on the Chuhai market. It's a kind of alco-pop which mixes soft drinks with the local spirit, soju. Another big winter storm is headed for New York, and this dashcam footage shows a lucky escape for a fire crew attending an accident. It happened in the north of the states, and more freezing weather is forecast for later. And I love this story. The world's oldest message in a bottle has been found. It's 132 years old and was tossed into the Indian Ocean by a German scientist hoping to find out more about ocean currents. Now, it was found in Perth, Australia, with a message saying, please send the slip back to the German Naval Observatory or the nearest German consulate with the date of its discovery and where it was found. Now, before the blue tickies on WhatsApp, you had to rely on the big blue to know your message got through. Now, Sierra Leone is set to get a new president. The question is, which of the 16 candidates is going to win? Voting's underway, and we sent Faja Barry out with his mobile phone to see how it's going.
10 hours of voting has commenced in Sierra Leone since 7 a.m. I am currently at the Christchurch Polling Centre in Freetown, and there are long queues here, just like many other stations I have visited across the city. I spoke to some people here. They told me that they've been in the queue since 2 a.m. this morning. More than 3 million Sierra Leoneans are eligible to vote for a new president and a new parliament. President Ernest Bai Koroma is stepping down after 2 terms in office. His preferred successor, Samora Kamara, is being challenged by 15 other presidential candidates. Amongst them are former military ruler Julius Maada Bio of the main opposition Sierra Leone Party, former UN diplomat Kande Yum Kela of the National Grand Coalition, and former Vice President Samuel Samsumana, who was sacked by President Nkrumah 3 years ago. All these presidential candidates are contesting on the platform of fixing the struggling economy, poor educational sector, and also fight corruption.
The clothing company Lacoste has launched a conservation campaign called Save Our Species. They've replaced the iconic crocodile on the chest with 10 endangered species like the Sumatran tiger and the Anegada ground-living iguana. Now, Simon Bradley's from the Save Our Species initiative of the International Union for Conservation of Nature. Simon, good to speak to you. So, isn't there better things that huge companies like Lacoste can do to try and bring about awareness of conservation?
Hi, Kamali. Thanks for making the time here. Yeah, sure. There are many things that companies can do. This is equally as important. Raising awareness is a fantastic stepping stone to doing more, to doing deeper engagement, to analysing support amongst the general public, and stepping up as a sort of a member of the business community and showing their colleagues or in the industry what can be done. We're talking today because this has trended on social media. It's appearing in lots and lots of places across the world on the internet and in press, etc. So, you know, that's a great start to getting the conversation on the global platform.
Simon, that's the point, isn't it? Because there was a time when you'd have to hear about these things in different ways. I guess social media is now the best way, and it has to be innovative to get people involved in conservation campaigns.
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is super innovative. It's super inspiring, and it's a daring branding move by Lacoste. But, you know, it's a good fit. It's aligned. Bear in mind that you talked about the social media being, maybe it's the lead part of the activity. This was also launched at their fashion show, and, you know, it represents sort of an outreach for what we've been doing for years, and what we're not the only people doing it, but IUCN coordinates many others in terms of conservation actions. So the social media leads that message, gets it out across new technology platforms, new generations, but it's part of an integrated communications effort, which is really just about raising awareness about substantial, meaningful work being done around the world on threatened species and saving the habitats they live in, and also supporting the communities that depend on those. So very much a very holistic sort of campaign.
Simon, while we've been talking, we've been seeing some pictures of endangered species, and we saw a shot of Sudan the rhino, that white rhino, that's the last of his kind. Now, what did you make of the fact that he was put on Tinder to try and raise a bit of money?
What do you think of it?
I thought it was very strange, but a good idea, I guess. Everyone's using Tinder.
Right. You know. So this is interesting because it's gathered a lot of awareness and gathered a lot of publicity for this poor individual and this species' plight, which, great. What we need to do is go the next step and turn awareness into interest and then into long-term support and engagement. And that's not just with the general public, but with governments in terms of policies and their mandates, and financing from companies or other expertise that companies and other members of civil society can bring to species conservation, because it really is a universal issue. You help save species, you can help engender security and peace in communities, you can help generate alternative livelihoods, you save beautiful species with the inspiration in terms of art and architecture and engineering and medicine, etc. There's so many benefits to do this. So if Tinder helps gather the awareness, great, but there needs to be a well thought out communications campaign or strategy behind that to convert that into meaningful action. And part of that is, of course, is reporting back and saying, look at the good work we've all done. Thank you guys for helping us. Thank you, Tinder. And God bless this poor rhino, because unfortunately, I think in his case, it's a tragedy, but if something good can come from his plight, so be it. Let's get behind that.
Will be good things. All good swiping right. You've got to put your hand in your pocket. Simon, thank you very much. And finally, Michelle Obama has been getting her dance on with a 2-year-old who was pictured staring at her portrait. Now, Parker was mesmerised by the picture of the former First Lady in the National Gallery in Washington, as you can see. Miss Obama then asked to meet Parker, and they had a little dance-off. Ms. Obama also wrote this message on Twitter. Parker, I'm so glad I had the chance to meet you today and for the dance party. Keep on dreaming big for yourself, and maybe one day I'll proudly look up at a portrait of you. It's enough to bring a tear to your eye. That's the end of Newsfeed. I'm Kamali. Thank you for watching. You can find us, of course, 24/7 on Facebook, Twitter and YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, and I will see you again tomorrow.